We have many questions from our viewers today.
All right.
The first question is, how is the eye of the needle phase progressing? Is there anything you can share with us about the COVID variants and what we can expect to move into in the fall and the winter of this year?
You're already experiencing the next variant. The idea, again, is that, as we have said, the eye of the needle will take you all the way, generally, into 2023. This doesn't mean you will experience the same things during that passage, but it is still always an opportunity to examine yourself deeply and let go of those fear-based beliefs. And remember that physical reality can be just as spiritual as spirit, depending upon how you relate to it. The choices that you make during the eye of the needle ought to be representative and reflective of the path of least resistance to your belief system. It is not about fighting to be spiritual, but the idea of relaxing into your spirituality so that you will become more aware, more conscious of what the choices are that actually will work best for you, and not necessarily to force yourself into a belief system that you do not believe you can sustain. So the idea of the passage of the eye of the needle is still a house cleaning experience, as you may say, to really let go, clear out all of those belief systems, assumptions, insistences that you believe you might need, and really relax into the flow of your truth to allow things to fall into place in the easiest, most effortless possible way.
Are cetaceans helping us in this phase of transformation?
In some senses, because they are telepathically connected to many different energies and civilizations, they are bringing that energy to your planet and distributing it, so to speak, radiating it, if you wish, to the rest of the world to make it available to those who are willing to take advantage of it. But they are also going to go through their own experience of transformation, parallel to yours, so that when you both come out the other end, along with many other beings on your planet, you will truly have renewed yourselves and stepped into a different reality more consciously.
Yes, I know that the dolphins are actually experiencing their own form of virus.
Yes.
And
so they will reflect, they will assist, but they will also have their own ideas of experiences to go through so that they can be in synchronous harmony with what humanity is experiencing as well.
You mentioned that the positivity of the earth is now a little more than 50%. And coronavirus inoculations in the US now seem to have stalled at just over 50%. Is the amount of completed inoculations an indication of our overall state of positivity?
To some degree. And also, of course, a representation of whatever states of negativity you are still holding on to in your belief systems.
What can we do to reverse the trends in extreme wildfires? How can we individually navigate to a reality where this and other aspects of climate change start to balance out?
Follow the formula. Again, that is your rudder. That is your tiller. That is your navigation mechanism. Always follow the formula as clearly, precisely, and fully as you can. This is not going to necessarily happen overnight. You're still going to shift through billions of other versions of Earth to get to the versions that will be more reflective of what you prefer, because this gives you the opportunity to still examine all the things that are going on, to make decisions, to help others who may yet need to see living examples of following your joy. So this will be a process that will happen over time. But the idea is, again, different versions of Earth are experiencing different things with regard to climate change, and you may see some shifts. But the idea of the climate change that you're experiencing now cannot fully be reversed. It can only be adapted to. But the idea is that as you progress through the different versions, you will eventually navigate yourself to a version of Earth where things will seem to reverse or mitigate to some degree, and then they will continue in that momentum for a while after that. Just keep going, just keep acting, just keep following the formula. It contains everything you need and leaves nothing out, including the experience of your physical reality on all levels and in all parallel realities.
And this burning of the forests, was this something that's happened previously on Earth in other periods of warming of the planet?
It has. And in many cases, nature does this so that it can replenish. Of course, the main difference that exists now is simply the habitations that you have built in areas that in the past were able to burn without destroying any structures because no structures existed. So now you have allowed yourself to create the kind of imbalance with nature that allowed you to put your structures in the way of the natural way that the Earth has of replenishing itself in periods such as this.
And previously, I guess in the United States, the Native Americans were the ones who sort of tended the forests. Is there something in our behavior with the way that we're managing our forests that is exacerbating this situation?
Yes, of course. Because the idea is you have accelerated these cycles greatly by the pollution of your atmosphere and other aspects of your world. And you have been out of balance with nature in many different ways that allows these things to be magnified many more times. The American Indians also did actually set fires purposely here and there under controlled conditions to allow certain sections of the forest to replenish itself, but they understood exactly to what degree to do this. It was not the idea of a rampant or out of control experience in most cases for them.
See. There's a question about a woman named Anjali who held a press conference in front of the Lincoln Memorial to talk about her experiences meeting different ET races. Are you familiar with this at all?
To some degree, but it is not necessarily relevant for us to comment on.
Okay. So the next question is, if we are never alone, why do I feel so lonely?
Well, first of all, your definitions about the idea of being on your own. The idea that you feel disconnected from things comes from definitions within you, whether consciously or unconsciously, that allow you to feel the idea or the experience of that disconnection, which can allow you to then experience being lonely. So the idea is to get in touch with your belief systems, to understand you're always connected. Now, this doesn't mean you will always be aware of the connections, and you have to be okay with that, because in many cases, you have to go through whatever processes are necessary for you to learn as an individual. But just because you are learning these things as an individual and don't necessarily sense the presence of others all the time, or even most of the time, doesn't mean they're not there to help you. Please do understand that it doesn't mean that when you have help, you're going to hear that help or perceive that help in necessarily any gigantic way or obvious way, because the idea is that your guides are allowing you to learn how to be your own best guide. So they will guide you with subtlety. They will guide you with whispers. They will guide you with synchronicity and suggestions that you may even think are your own, in your own thoughts, in your own mind. So you are never really alone, but the idea is that you're always given the privacy and the independence to function as your own best guide. So just know you're not alone, but let it be okay for you to not always sense the presence of others, because that might interfere with your ability to strengthen your own self and get in touch with your own powers to create the reality that you truly prefer.
I remember one time you talked about the idea of the word alone and how it actually also represents the idea of all one.
Yes. So again, it's about definitions, it's about perspective, and it's about understanding how to use those definitions to create the atmosphere and the environment in which you can thrive while not necessarily being held by the hand constantly.
So the idea, you could always ask yourself, am I thinking of myself as being alone, or am I remembering that we're all one?
Yes, and also, again, many people on your planet may experience the concept of loneliness because, again, they have insistences on how things should happen in their life, and when they don't see it, they give it a negative definition. They may insist on the idea of having certain kinds or attracting certain kinds of relationships, and when they don't see them, they feel that they have been abandoned. But all these things come from belief systems within you that you really need to get in touch with, really need to let go of, so that you can change what you feel. Because remember, all feelings stem from something you define and believe to be true. There's no such thing as a feeling existing in a vacuum. It has to come from something you believe in to begin with. So get honest, get deep, get transparent in your self-examination, and truly let go of those fear-based beliefs and insistences that you may not even know you're holding on to, but which are the only things that can create the experience that you're describing as loneliness. You think you're missing something in your belief system.
What's the difference between like being your true vibration and people who are popular or charismatic? Is there a relationship between that and individuals who may not be quite that way and often feel alone because they're lonely because they're not attracting lots of friends?
All right. Well, again, there's insistence in that definition, and you've kind of mixed several definitions in there into one thing. You don't have to necessarily attract a lot of people to be on your true vibration. In fact, there are some people who don't attract people at all because their true vibration is to experience and examine and investigate things more on their own than with others. But the idea is that what you're referring to as charisma is just a particular kind of experience that goes with some people being in their true vibration. And not always do people have to be in their true vibration to attract others into their lives in great quantities. It depends on what lessons they have to learn by the reflections that others may bring into their reality with them. So the idea or the measure of being in your true vibration is not necessarily represented by the idea of popularity or charisma. It's really just what is correct and relevant for you to experience that allows you to become more of your true self. And remember, some people will experience the idea of attracting many people, sometimes even to, shall we say, disguise things within themselves that they don't want to look at by distracting themselves, by surrounding themselves with a lot of people, so that they don't have to pay attention to the things they don't want to look at within themselves. So you can't always tell, just because they may be attracting a lot of people, whether they're doing that for a positive or a negative reason.